Peace and love, everybody. It's your bro Zoe, and this next very special episode of your the Polka Dot Rabbit podcast, I have a very important special guest with us. And I'm gonna get right into it because always, please keep the book Bicultural Living and Leaving the World of Illusions. You know what I mean? Polka Dot Rabbit Podcast.com. Okay, and I'm gonna get right into it. Mr. James Spooner, you might have heard him from the originator of Afro Punk. You know what I'm saying? And he has some other projects going on. And I'm gonna let him introduce himself. And go ahead, bro.
Hey, I'm James Spooner, and thanks for having me. Like you said, I'm probably best known for my 2003 documentary Afro Punk and the festival that came out of it. I was involved in the first 4 of them and left in 2008. And I've been a tattooer for about 13 years. And as of May of this year, 2022, I will be debuting my graphic novel, The High Desert, which is basically like my punk rock origin story, growing up in a small town in Southern California as one of 2 Black kids in the punk scene, in a town where the scene is largely run by literal Nazis. So just despite all that, finding the beauty and magic that and empowerment that comes from the DIY punk scene.
That's awesome. And like I said earlier, if y'all know, in my book and throughout life, the hardcore scene in me right coming out of high school was a big thing that in Richmond, Virginia. And I actually experienced, Richmond outside of Richmond. I'm not going to say that the Nazis ran it all, but I know they had some Ku Klux Klan members that were running a lot of stuff. I know that for a fact, this might sound strange to some people, but this is a reality that he's going to talk about, and I lived as well. But in all that, like you said, the beauty, I was able to that the hardcore scene, punk rock, was a shelter for me of growth, and I love and respect everything about it. That's why I said earlier, what you did with Afro Punk for me was amazing. Like when I saw Afro Punk, of course you had the Bad Brains, you had Fishbone, all these black bands together, but that's like all we had. So my first question is, what was the whole idea and the concept of Afro Punk? Like, what inspired you to do it?
Well, I think in the early 2000s, before I came up with the idea of making the documentary, I was going through an identity crisis of my own. I think being mixed race, being light skin, being able to pass for all kinds of different races depending on who I'm talking to or who's talking to me, I should say. And then growing up in the punk scene, both in the desert and in New York City, I just had a lot of kind of warring identities, and I feel like in early 2000s I was part of this New York nightlife rock and roll scene that was apolitical and I want to say very white, but when I think back to who my friends were, most of them were people of color, but I definitely didn't have a lot of access to Black culture at that time. And I was in New York City, so my only excuse was was that I wasn't looking for it, So I went to my father's from St. Lucia, and he was living there at the time. So I went to go visit him, kind of in an attempt to like reclaim or reconnect with my cultural background. And I had this kind of like awakening that wasn't sparked by like a welcoming and generosity from the people of St. Lucia. It was sparked by my like really understanding that I don't know anything about this culture or these people. So you know, it was definitely just like a heartbreaking awakening to realize that like yeah, I don't get along, or I don't get along is wrong. I don't connect with Black America not because I'm Caribbean, which is what I always thought, because when I went to the Caribbean, I didn't connect there either. You know, I didn't ever make a home for myself within the Black community. So I came back to the States really angry, and I put a lot of my blame on the punk scene. And while it's like the punk scene raised me, so I think it was time to rebel, you know?
Yeah.
And so I started talking to some of the Black punks that I did know growing up in New York. I had a few friends, like close friends in high school, who I had kind of lost touch with. And I started reconnecting with them and really asking them questions about the experience of being a Black punk rocker. And there were questions that, you know, as teenagers, we just didn't have the emotional intelligence or vulnerability to ask, you know. And excuse me, I'm getting over a cold. So I asked them, and I found that the answers were much like my answers, you know. Though, you know, one came from Texas and one came from you know, the inner city of New York, and whatever, you know, it was so I thought, you know, I feel like this should be a film, you know. And you know, I was a sculptor at the time. I've always been involved in arts, but I kind of went with it with the same kind of punk audacity that I did with like starting a band when I was a little kid or anything else, right? It's like, well, I can make a movie, you know? So
why not, right?
Yeah, so I just like figured out what equipment I needed. You know, I maxed out my credit cards and I started interviewing Black punks. That's it.
That's it.
2 years later, I had a film. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and yeah, it's so dope because like I was like we were talking before this. It's like a lot of experiences I've that you've said. I can relate with so much, man. Like I saw one little cartoon you had, like when I think one of the girls was like playing with your hair, like talking about your hair and stuff, and you know, different things like that. And it's like so many things. It's just I experienced living in suburbs/country. You know what I mean? That, you know, even though I was around Black folks my whole life, but like there was a point in which I was the one of three kids in high school, you know, and the punk scene. You know what I'm saying? And I can relate, man. You don't know, man. And when you said, or you do know, you know, you can relate. When you put this out and I saw this, I was just like, God, I thought I was the only one. You know what I'm saying? And then I saw this and I saw this. I was like, yo, there's more, you know? And to me, this was one of the most iconic things for us people, of color, melanated people, whatever it's called. This right here was so powerful and enlightening in so many ways for people that experienced and people didn't know anything about it. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
So you put the book out. You put the documentary out. And you're saying, okay, I just got to put this. So how did the festival come and work out?
Well, okay, so like the short, I'll try to tell you the short story of that is basically the movie came out. It was immediately well received.
Okay.
The first screenings I had were at festivals. American Black Film Festival, a very prestigious Black film festival, had 3 screenings, all of them sold out, and and to my surprise, it wasn't like 200 Black punks showed up, or even 200 punks showed up. It was 200 mainstream Black folks who sold out each, and I started hearing quickly after the shows like, oh, you know what, I'm not punk, but I relate to this as well. And I realized that this otherness within the Black community is something that we just don't talk about. I think it's like really common for the tragic mulatto story of not fitting in, but there are like fucking no shortage of just post-slavery American Negroes who just do not fit in, who do not fit the BET Tyler Perry lane of Blackness, right? And that's hard to wrap your head around when you're the only person experiencing it. So I started seeing that people want to see this film. I didn't expect that when I made it. I thought I'd screen it a few times and it'd just be one of those like cathartic things that I did, but people want to see the movie, so I set up and I was like, why am I giving all the festivals all the money?
Exactly.
So I just set up like a screening at a bar, and I charged like $7 and 100 people came and I got the door and I got $700. That was my rent in one day. I was like, holy shit,
DIY.
So I just started doing that, I was touring it like a band, I was going back to DIY roots, and I did that for a year and I screened it 132 times.
Good gracious.
There was a lot of festivals, a lot of, punk kids were putting on screenings, universities. I mean, all I had to do was send them a VHS copy, it was.
And that was, it was done.
Yeah. And like, I was able to make a living just, I mean, at that point, it was kind of post 9/11. So the DJ gigs had dried up and stuff. So I was living with my mom to finish my movie. So I didn't have rent. So I was just, making money so that I could like move out,
Yeah, exactly. Move on. Right?
And I'm sorry, I said this was the short version, but so then, I ended up, it was on my 1-year anniversary. I'd screened it 132 times and I wanted to do like a party, and at the time there was this band called Stiffed playing around New York, and that was like Santi White, the member, the singer for Santo Gold. She was in this punk band, and they were pretty popular, and they had like a Black following in New York because she had written the Reese album, which was a neo soul artist that was popular at the time. So people were like, "Oh, she wrote the Reese album," So, anyways, in New York City, Stiff had this black audience, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I want to do a party. I want to have them play. You know, maybe this could be a scene, you know, because it's mostly Black folks coming to the screenings
Mm-hmm.
in New York.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'd done some other events that were like Black focused and rock focused and Black folks that showed up. So anyways, it was like, maybe this could be something. So I got Stiff to play. And in order to do that, I talked to their manager. Their manager turned out to be this dude, Matthew Morgan, who ended up becoming my business partner.
Mm.
And the two of us together started doing the liberation sessions. That was a basically monthly event that was like my film, 3 bands. On the next floor, there was a DJ spinning like house and soul and stuff. And it was kind of like you could go between vibes, you know, and it was very intentionally marketed to Black folks.
Mm-hmm.
So almost, you know, without a hitch, I'm seeing like 300 Black people in a mosh pit, you know, watching these bands they'd never heard of, only coming because they heard the Afro Punk events were hot, you know. And then at the same time, the message board was happening, and the message board was really cracking.
Yeah,
you know?
I remember that.
And that was, you know, people from all over the country and parts of the world were connecting in the way that they couldn't in New York, because, you know, you're the one person in Idaho, you know? So they started talking about they want to do a meetup, you know? And I'm thinking, well, y'all want to meet up. We got something dope happening here in New York. Let's just do a weekend, you know? And we hooked up with the Brooklyn Academy of Music, which was like is a cultural space in New York. And we with their help, we organized a film festival. So that first Afro Punk Fest was in fact called Afro Punk Weekend. It was in 2005. It had 4 days of Black revolutionary films at BAM. What do you call it? 3 nights of bands that were scattered throughout the city at different venues. And it ended on the Sunday. It was over July 4th weekend. So on the last day, I don't know, remember if that's Monday or whatever. That was we had a picnic, right? And just a place to build community, you know. And we did it like that for 3 years. And it was like some of the best stuff that, you know, the people who went, that was probably some of the best times of their lives, for sure.
Yeah. I actually had the honor of playing an Afro Punk show. I can't remember the year, but it was at I can't remember the name of the place now. We played it. Interesting thing that you brought about Matt, because like when I all heard about Afro Punk, you know, I used to see your face, you know, and then when we played Afro Punk, I saw this guy. We drove from Atlanta. We were in Atlanta at the time. The band was a Mool 9 back at the time. So some of y'all old cats, you remember we used to play it in New York all the time. So we drove up there. I think we played 2 shows, you know, and he was corresponding. Matt was corresponding on the sub. But I always saw your face, you know what I'm saying? And when I went up there, I thought I was going to see you, but I saw Matt, you know what I'm saying? So I was just like, okay, where's James at? So like, what was there some type of riff, or like what happened in which you were out the picture and then Matt came in, or what happened?
So Matthew and I together, just get the timeline right.
Okay.
I made the movie. I screened it 100 times, and then I met Matthew.
Okay.
He was interested. He's a music manager.
Mm-hmm.
He's a businessman, you know.
Mm-hmm.
He was interested in getting Stiff signed, and nobody was interested in signing a black artist, black rock artist. You know, this was before TV on the radio. This was before Block Party, before Noisettes. Like, it just hadn't been done since Fishbone, and it didn't work with Fishbone. You know,
exactly right.
So, Stiff deserved to be signed. They totally had pop sensibility. He wanted that, so he managed them, and he was like, "Let's partner up on this. Let's build it. Let's prove that we can have black rock acts, and people will come." You know.
Mm-hmm.
So we worked together for like 3 or 4 years, and as our scene was growing, there became more commercial interest, you know, and you know, we were getting on more prestigious festival things like CMJ, South by Southwest Showcase, you know, these things that you know, you can't just be any jackass and get part of it. You have to be established in some kind of way. And, you know, and I was kind of running with it, you know, like I was the DIY anchor that was like, we can't do that. We can do this, you know, we can do this, but we have to like, you know, we can't have these bands. We got, you know, like whatever, you know, like we're always trying to keep focus, you know, because there would be these conversations where I would be like, how can we have white bands play? You know, and I'd be like, they can't. That's how, you know, because this is Afro Punk, you know. You know, well, how can we get, you know, we're always trying to expand. Like, how can we, you know, expand the people? How can we get more people? If we get more people, then we can get more money and, you know, whatever. Get more sponsorship. We can do more with it, etc. And you know, long story short, it got to the 4th year of the festival, 2008, and I was no longer living in New York. I moved to Los Angeles. So I was working remotely on booking bands and whatever, you know. And you know, Matthew shows up one day, calls me, and it's like, yo, we got the band parking lot. It's going to be free. It's going to be all ages. You know, it's going to be centered in one place. And I'm like, amazing. That's great. You know, we're going to have Toyota is going to sponsor it. And Mountain Dew is going to sponsor it, you know. And, you know, it's like I'd worked with sponsors before, but these were already starting to censor me in certain ways. I wasn't allowed to put certain things on flyers. I had to remove things from I was blogging for Toyota at some point, and I had to remove things from the blog. There was a lot of just like stuff that went against my politics, you know? And there was a lot of compromises that I wasn't comfortable making, but I was already in my eyeballs. And I'm just not the kind of person who's like, well, you know, it's not going my way, so Matthew, get out, you know? Because at that point, he'd worked really hard, you know?
Just as hard,
He'd work, you know, like he was my partner for 4 years, you know, and wasn't like half-stepping, you know? So it kind of became a him or me kind of situation because the festival that I left, that one that was, all ages, and had built a skate park and all the stuff that I was excited about, also like had an entire day of like rap rock that was not really even rock, and Bone Crusher headlined,
Oh yeah.
and it felt cool, but it also felt like this isn't why we are doing this, and the sponsors were really just saying whack shit, and there was a guy who, one of the rappers on stage did a cover of Buju Banton's Boom Bye Bye, and I had to like get up on stage and apologize to the audience because that homophobic shit does not fly. And can you imagine a Afro Punk without the gay people? Like,
yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? But that's this kind of stuff that happens when you just like when you don't have like the right politics in mind, when you're focused on the money,
Yeah, exactly. No, I agree 100%.
So not to like badmouth what Afro Punk has become, because it is valuable. I recognize that, but it is not in the vision of what we were part of. You know what I'm saying? And those intersectional politics that are like put up on the side of the stage are great. No homophobia, no sexism, no sexism, etc. But somehow Tyler the Creator gets to play.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that dude's got like hella songs where the lyrics about raping people and stuff, there's just too many inconsistencies that come with the big picture being, the bottom line being money.
Yeah, exactly.
It being about how many bodies can we fill in this space, not about who are these people and how are we serving this community that I'm part of,
Yeah.
So when so back in 2008, when it was still relatively small as compared to today, I already saw the forest for the trees, and I was just like, I can't be part of this, despite what financial promises are ahead. This isn't why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
I'm here to build to create a space for alternative Black folks and build a community where we can like thrive, not sell Mountain Dew.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, and I think that it's a worthy argument to say, well, that's kind of what Afro Punk's doing, right? They've built this space for alternative Black folks but it doesn't feel like a community. It's a brand, and it's a brand that people can rally around. But, at the end of the day, a brand is not your family. And I think that anyone who is part of Afro Punk in the, those early years, they not only do they feel like a family, did they feel like a family back then, but they are still a family today. Yeah. Literally, some of those people got married. Yeah. Like off the message board. So, I have a lot of opinions and
no.
But to summarize all that, we had different visions.
Yeah,
and,
I got you.
Usually, the person whose vision is money has more power.
Yeah. They're gonna win. Yeah.
I quietly stepped away.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you said that because me even seeing Afro Punk before, and I was like, yo, this is like what I've always been waiting for. And then I remember playing that show, and then afterwards, I think it was around '08, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I remember Mountain Dew there, so it literally might have been that same year, but
It might
we
have been
didn't
the
play.
next
We
year,
played next year. Okay.
2009.
Oh, no, it probably was '09. You're probably right because we played in one of those. I can't remember the name, but he had a maybe like a monthly thing, an Afro Punk monthly thing that was going on. We were playing one of those things, and we didn't play Afro Punk itself, but that's when I met Creature. Actually, that's when I met Creature from up there and a bunch of folks. But anyway, so after that, that seeing that experience, and I started seeing things creep in. The thing you're talking about, like I started seeing things. I was like, wait a minute, this doesn't look like what I first was introduced to. You know what I mean? And then after that, after I met Matt, we did that thing, and they had Afro Punk. Honestly, it was never the same after that. You know what I'm saying? And personally, I lost complete interest, to be honest. Because it wasn't what I was used to, and I was really excited to see and be a part of. You know what I mean? I still like kind of just watch it and stuff. And just like you were saying, I still give its props because it still has a place. If I would have had as a teenager today, I would still be happy to have Afropunk today because it's better than anything I had. You know what I'm saying before.
Yeah.
So I'm with you on that. So that explains a lot because I never knew the backstory. So you basically it's like, well, this, I'm gonna go ahead and take the high road, dip on out, and see where it goes, and then move on.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's like I got two identities. I'm black and I'm punk.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that's it. And I'm not going to be part of something that doesn't that goes against what I'm about. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got you.
And people been asking since I left, where's the punk in Afro?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Having a few bands does not make it a punk festival. And I think that I've heard from many, many people who come from the true punk scene.
Yeah.
Black folks who are like, man, I went to Afro Punk expecting Mecca.
Yeah.
And I got there and it was like any other festival, but it was just black folks there. And it was so disappointing that I never went again,
Yeah.
And that's a very common story.
Yeah.
And
I can see that.
The funny thing, the thing that I love is that a lot of those kids started their own festivals. And now there are at least 10 POC punk festivals that happen annually. And if those existed when I made Afro Punk, I wouldn't have needed to make Afro Punk.
Yeah, exactly. No, real talk, man. Yeah.
So it's like you never know how the gifts are going to be returned. You know what I'm saying? I
agree. I'm with you, man. Yeah, because I know my homeboy down here in Atlanta. Well, I'm in Richmond now, but my homeboy when I'm back and forth from Richmond, Atlanta. But my homeboy Vaughn, he started Punk Black. You know what I'm saying? And like, Punk Black. He's doing his thing, man. Yeah. And I look at that, I'm like, damn, that Punk Black is like what I originally would have saw when I saw Afro Punk. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? And I give that dude all the props, man. And anybody else that's doing what you really planted the seed, and doing that as well. I give you mad props, man, because just like he was saying, man, earlier, this whole identity thing about being black in America and and just being on top of that, being in the scene and you're the only black person, this shit is deep, man. It's like, and everything he was talking about, the identity that you have to find in yourself and the world politics, wonder why they say most black folks got PTSD here, man, because this place is nuts. It's coming at us from every angle. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So let's kind of fast forward, and I appreciate you building on that, man, because I think we briefly talked about it. You didn't go into much detail. That makes much more sense now. I'm putting the pieces on my experience. I had all that. Now all those pieces come together. So let's talk about this book, man, because just from the things I saw online and the things you post sometimes, the little cartoon clips and stuff, I'm just like, yeah, I remember that experience. So what is the book about? Well, first off, what is the book about?
All right. Well, I got a preview copy of it here. I'm sorry I didn't get you one. So it's called The High Desert. And it's basically my origin story. 368 pages, fully illustrated. And, it's my punk rock origin story. I grew up in, it's confusing for some people because I call New York my home. But from kindergarten to ninth grade, I lived in a desert town in Southern California, a series of desert towns in Southern California. These are the kind of places that if you live in LA and you're driving to Vegas, you might stop for gas. All right. You might pull into the town and go to the Taco Bell, and that's the extent of it, so these are very low income, largely white, desert, lots of dirt towns, right? And in eighth grade, I was a skateboarder, and I started like picking up on punk because that was this is 1989. That was the music, the soundtrack for punk. That's what was in Thrasher magazine, etc. So I started finding out a little bit about punk, and then I met my first day of eighth grade. There's new kids, and I met. I was actually a new kid. I moved into a new town in that area, and I met a black punk. My first punk rocker I met was black. And I was like, yo, that dude is cool. I'm 13 years old, and I'm like, that guy looks like he runs it.
Yeah.
So I became friends with him, and he introduced me to all these bands and stuff, and it was on. I was like double mohawk, like bondage pants, the whole like get up,
Yeah.
Hot Topic just opened up in the mall, so give me a Misfits t-shirt,
That's it. There you go. That's it.
But a lot of the kids in that scene were very comfortably racist. Like swastikas drawn on their trapper keepers, Heil and Hitler to say hi to each other, and for the most part, we were treated as exceptions. You're black, you ain't a nigger. You know what I'm saying? And at that age, you just want to be part of something, and so it's struggling. Like this kid in the book, the guy who I was just talking about, his best friend was a Nazi skinhead who they grew up since kindergarten together, And this stuff kind of sounds crazy, but if you grow up in these kind of areas, there's no shortage of experiences where black folks who grow up in places where there are just tons of Nazis, that you just go to parties and there's just like a ton of Nazis there, and like they probably don't fuck with you because they've known you since you were in second grade.
Exactly.
But they're over there making racist jokes. They'll make racist jokes to you, like So, you know, this book really like is my true story about like navigating that world. And then, you know, my dad lived in New York, so going to New York and finding out what real punk rock is about, you know? Trying to bring that back home, and, you know, so I don't want to give away the whole book of it, you know?
Yeah.
But that's basically, you know, most people wouldn't think that Afro Punk started in a shitty little white racist town in Southern California.
Yeah, it's like the exact opposite you would think.
Yeah. But yo, punk rockers are reactionary.
Yeah.
You know? And just like those kids who went to Afro Punk and were like, what? Fuck this, and started their own festival.
Yeah.
You know? Just like me, who was sick of the war going on in my head, and was like, fuck punk, and made Afro Punk.
Yeah.
You know? Take it all the way back, you know? All of that started because I was reacting to this extreme racism that I experienced, you know, and that I witnessed, you know, because my friend was a lot darker skinned than me. And, but when we walk down the street together and people are just yelling nigger out the window, like,
had that happen many times.
I thought they were talking about me too.
Yeah.
You know, because shit, it stings just the same.
Just the same, yeah.
So, yeah. So that's, you know, that's the reaction is making Afro Punk, and you know, that's the reaction is making art. You know,
you know, it's interesting too, because this is like still this conversation is dialogue. I don't know how common on this levels, because you know I think you got me beat by maybe a couple of years in age, but maybe but people it might be a lot more difficult for people to understand, kind of going back in time, like a lot of the stuff that we experienced, you know what I mean? Just like, you know, stuff that just the extreme racism, you know. But I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna see what you kind of feel about this, as though it's like having the punk scene still being a minority, you know, and having the vast majority of the punk scene in Richmond where I was growing up being receiving and positive, you know. In all honesty, even though I was catching hell in the rest of the area, the punk scene was like a shelter, so to speak, right?
Sure.
And that right there made me never, ever in my lifetime want to have hatred towards anybody just because they look different, or because they're gay, or because they're, you know, obese, or whatever the case may be. Because I dealt with all that, you know what I'm saying? It was put all on me. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, that right there, no matter what happened in the world, no matter what I know about history, what, you know, about white people, what they did in the history, whatever the case may be, it started to make me learn how to deal with people individually. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Regardless of how they, you know, how they looked or how they treated you, you know what I mean? So that actually, even though on the other side, in that same, you know, same city or whatever, vast majority of people, the race was a small amount of white folks that was just like, we ain't really like them. But they didn't say this, but they ain't really like them, but they treated me the same. So that in punk, like, started me to be more mature as far as dealing with people, you know, amongst other things.
No, yeah. I mean, you know, my experience in California's punk scene with the Nazis and stuff, like, instantly changed when I moved to New York. You know, it's a completely different dynamic because it's multicultural there. You know, and I got to like forget about race.
Exactly.
You know, which has its own problems. You know, but yeah, I mean, you know, it's like New York didn't have any Nazis because other white kids had beat them up and kicked them out, you know?
That's how it was in Richmond.
You might end up if you went to go see Agnostic Front in New Jersey, there might be some skin Nazis there, but you can guarantee they're going to get their ass beat, you know? But New York City, I didn't experience it anymore, you know?
Yeah,
but there was sexism, there was homophobia, and I had to find like yet another lane in the punk scene that was intersectional. And, you know, that was the more of the DIY kind of, you know, in New York, we had ABC No Rio. In the Bay Area, they have Gilman Street. You know, it's more of that kind of DIY collective punk scene that is really just like, yeah, we don't allow sexism here. You know, we don't allow homophobia here, you know, and that appealed to me. And I think it appealed to me for the same reason that it appealed to you. You know, it's like, I know what it's like to be targeted for no reason other than for nothing I can control. So I don't want to do that to other people. Right. And then going to, you know, so I started going to shows in the suburbs and I'm sorry, like in the tri-state area where that like DIY scene really thrives. And yeah, I didn't experience like any hatred or whatever. But I did start to, the self-hate started to resurface when I was in the scene that I loved that was all white kids. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because in New York, it's like, it's very mixed, very like, you know, lots of Dominicans, Asian kids, like it's mixed. There's, you know, it's not weird to go to a show and be like, oh shoot, there's like Chaka from Burn or Orange 9mm, you know, whatever. Like that was regular. But, you know, everybody's like bitch this and fag that, you know? I go away from that and go into the scenes in Connecticut, New Jersey, or whatever, Pennsylvania, and their politics are on point, but it's super white. And then I'm like, well, you know, again, I'm like 16 or whatever. I want to fit in. I want to look like the other kids. You know, they all got these little emo haircuts. I want to like perm my hair, and you know what I'm saying? Like, so it's just this thing where we have to control we have to be able to control like our spaces, you know? And I think that only happens through being vocal. So, you know, I'm in my mid 40s now. Like I'm, if I go to shows at all, I'm in the back. I'm not like a participant. You know? But I you know, I watch the kids on Instagram. I like, you know, I'm ushering my child in, you know what I'm saying? And I'm seeing that like over and over again. I'm just like, wow, that's a really brown audience.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? Like,
I agree.
Almost every day I like post some picture or I tag, at least I hold on to some picture, and the tag or like, remember when this was some white people shit?
Yeah,
you know, because it's like the whole. I'm looking at this audience. It's not like I'm picking out the one brown kid. You know, it's like a whole bunch of brown kids. You know,
that's it.
And I live in LA, so the punk scene is all brown. You know, I went to a huge Subhuman show, and there was like 6 white kids there. Yeah, you know, so. I mean, I'd like to believe that things are changing, you know? And, you know, like I said, people need, like you said, people need to be validated. They need to like see themselves reflected, right? And then, like I said, we need something to react against, you know? And when we see that punk rock has been there's this white narrative around punk rock you know, you see these like cool Instagram pages like BIPOC Punk that's like just hundreds every day. This dude is putting up new pictures of POC punks throughout history, you know? And it's like, oh, I never even knew there was a black dude. Oh, there's a Filipino person in that band? You know, like,
exactly.
You never even known. Once we know our history, then we feel like we belong. Why did I ever question it in the first place?
Man, I'm still, besides like Afro Punk, you know, I just remembered the feeling of seeing Bad Brains play, Fishbone play, even Living Color, just seeing them brothers up there, man. You know what I'm saying? And you know, truth be told, I'm sure you might feel the same way, but maybe not. But yo, when I used to go to shows, man, or whatever, and I have a Bad Brains shirt on, it was like a badge of honor. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, it was like, I felt like I was attached to that greatness. Yeah. And that confidence and that it just exude, you know what I'm saying? Like wherever I walked in, just because I had a Fishbone or Bad Brains shirt on, you know what I'm saying? And that's powerful.
I got one story before we wrap up. Like when I first moved to New York, I was like 14 or 15, and I met this black punk. I met him earlier, but I like befriended this black punk, this dude named Ryan, and he was like, he told me he was in an all black punk band, and do I want to come to the show? Yeah, of course, you know. So this was maybe my first like small punk show, you know. Like I went to go see like Guar and went to the Super Bowl of Hardcore, like these huge, you know, shows, but this was like in a little bar, you know? And I walked down that stairs and it was just like thick with black folks. Yeah. And I was just like, what? You know? And the band played and they were called Bushmon. And, you know, these guys who are early 20s, they were like really, you know, clearly big Bad Brains fans. And also big Fishbone fans. Like they like really combined it, you know. But they did it really well, you know. And man, people were going crazy. I was there dancing with, you know, all these black strangers. And I really felt like in that moment, I felt like, man, like a real pride. You know, like I'm proud to be part of this, you know, because there are a lot of white kids in this audience and I know that they know that these black motherfuckers are cool. And they're not one of them. You know? And in that moment, I was like, I get to be one of them, you know? And like, I hope that, you know, I want that feeling for you know, for alternative black kids who struggle with their identity, you know, just to experience being like, my daughter is goth and she's got, you know, she's different than us in that, like, she's got examples, you know, like I've been showing her examples from the jump, you know, but I remember I took her to this, like in LA, they have this goth flea market kind of thing, or it's like where all the goths get together and they sell like stuff, you know. And we were walked in and there was like 5 or 6 black goth girls just hanging out together, and I marched her right up to them, you know. And they were just like, I mean, they're like teary just thinking about it. They were like, oh my God, she's so cute, because she was like, you know, this was before she really got it. She was like 10 and she was just wearing a little, like, you know, Nirvana shirt or Bauhaus shirt or something. I don't know, you know, but it was like, oh, it's little baby goth, you know, like, and just to see the exchange of those grown women looking at like the next generation. Right? And for her to look up at them and be like, wow, they're so cool. you know, and see what goth looks like when it's black, you know? So she never has to be one of those unfortunate black goth kids who like do white powder on their face or whatever, you know, because they have an example, you know.
Exactly.
Beautiful thing, and that's what I'm here for. That's what this, you know, Afro Punk was about. That's what this book is meant to do, is just to give more examples. Like, black people can be and should be everything, and we already are. So, you know, just we just need to validate one another, you know.
Man, I'm excited for the book to come out. So where can they find the book?
Well, it's through HarperCollins, so you can get it every single place where you can get books.
Okay.
It'll be out May 17th.
May 17th, okay.
And so, you know, wherever you like to buy books, it's there.
Okay.
Yeah, it's, you know, and if you want to support independent bookstores, you can. It helps me out if you call them up and say, "Hey, do you have this book? Can you order it? Whatever, draw the attention to it." You know.
Yeah.
But it's already getting it's already getting really great reviews, and you know, I'm feeling pretty positive about it.
I wouldn't expect anything less from you, my brother. So that's a good thing, man.
I appreciate it.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, man. You are revolutionary, iconic in a whole bunch of ways. And truth be told, in addition to, you know, this and this, you know, once it airs and etc., I'm gonna keep on pushing. You know what I'm saying? In my circles, I'm gonna push people towards the book and, you know, the things that you know that you got going on. So that's my word, man. So I appreciate everything. I know you got some things popping in a few minutes, man. So I just want to say thank you very much. You know what I'm saying? And y'all check out this brother. I'm gonna have all his information in the description where you can get his book and everything, you know, once this bad boy airs. And anything else you want to say, James, before you dip on out?
No, I just really appreciate the opportunity, man.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it.
I appreciate you coming, man. I know we were like, we were, what do you call it? Playing tag, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, just trying to time it right, you know?
Yeah, exactly. No, it's perfect timing, bro. Man, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate everything you've done. I appreciate, you know, you being a stand-up guy, man, and all that good stuff. And man, thank you so much again. And best of luck to you. Much love to you and your family. You know, keep on rolling, brother.
All right. Peace.
All right. Peace.